Well, Tim, we're here in Linden, Kansas, and we're visiting our good friend Ron King, and he is one of the Vietnam veteran warriors that we have come to know and love. And he's a brother to me, and it's important to make sure that the guys that served with us and during our time period are able to put in a record form, so that not only now, but future generations, future generations will be able to go and see you alive and talking. And one of the things that got me started on this is I got sent my grandfather's artillery yearbook, and then I got sent his discharge papers, and then I got sent several of his things. He was an artillery battery sergeant. And as I was reading in there, it was an amazing testimony to him. His men, I mean, several men wrote things in there about him, and the one thing that I always remember is he always put his men's safety first. They all said that. And I thought, what would I give if I could have actually talked to my grandpa? I mean, it would be worth everything. If I could at least have met him or seen him or something. Well, guess what? They're going to be able to see lots of grandpas now. They're all these adult kids and their kids and their kids. So that's why it's so important, I think, that we actually sit down and have a chat about your service. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to start out kind of easy, like, what's your date of birth?
Well, I was born May 29th, 1945.
And where was that?
Born in Burke, South Dakota.
Okay. And were you raised there?
I was raised in South Dakota and moved to Nebraska when I was a junior in high school.
Okay. Tell us a little bit about your folks.
My dad was a construction worker, and then he bought a bulldozer and started his own custom work. Did farm work type terracing and
Oh yeah,
and stuff for farmers, and then he got a job on the Missouri River clearing some timber in Nebraska.
okay.
Cleared about 800 acres of land, and the landowner asked him if he'd like to farm that ground that he cleared. And so I became a farm boy in my junior year in high school.
Okay. Was your dad was he successful at that?
Well, he stayed with it till he retired and moved to Texas.
Okay. How about your mom?
My mom was pretty much a housewife.
Okay.
I have 7 brothers and sisters.
So
3 brothers, 4
in other words,
sisters.
she was bearing and raising future patriots.
You might say
well,
I'm the only military son that they had.
Where are you at in the scheme of things with those 7?
Oldest.
Oh, you are? Okay.
Oldest, yes.
So you probably, through your upbringing, had more responsibility, obviously, than because
I'm the one who got my ass whipped for when they did
what I
something
meant.
wrong.
Yeah, that's what I meant. So, were you drafted or did you join?
I was drafted.
And do you remember exactly when that was?
Well, I remember when I went in the service, 21st October 1965.
Okay. And where did you go to basic? Oh, were you drafted or did you?
Yeah, I was drafted.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry.
Fact is, I was when I graduated from high school, I started traveling. I came to Wichita, Kansas. My uncle and I went to New Orleans to work that winter in 1965.
What kind of work was going on down there?
Construction.
Oh, okay.
So we worked in January is when we went to New Orleans, and came back to Wichita in the spring, worked construction then, and I was living in Wichita when I got my greetings from Uncle Sam. And my letter to report for duty. So I had to go back to northeast Nebraska, climbed on a train and went to Fort Leonard Wood, Missouri.
Okay, so you started out in basic at Fort Leonard Wood.
Yes, sir.
Okay, and then at the end of 8 weeks, they got you guys out there and they told you where you were going next.
Well, it was a little longer than 8 weeks, John. And it was kind of a funny story, because I went in and they give you all these tests, you know, and they come back and they said, you done very well on your tests. We want to make a leader out of you. And they had this course they called Leadership Orientation Course.
Okay.
And I said, well, what benefit do I get? And I think it was a 2-week course, if I remember right. Well, you get your own room during basic, and you don't have to do KP. You get sergeant stripes during basic. And I said, good enough.
That sounded too good to turn down, right?
You can't turn down a deal like that. So I agreed to take this leadership orientation course. And
So that added 2 weeks onto your basic, is that what you're saying?
well, it added just a little bit more.
Oh, okay.
I went into this course, and then after I got out, then I had to wait for the next rotation of the basic training. So I went into a holding company, and so had to wait for the next basic, bunch of basic trainees. So by the time I got my basic training done, there was no leave after that. So pretty much I screwed up any leave after basic training. Plus, when you go to leader orientation course before basic, it puts you right in line for OCS.
Yeah, I knew that.
You heard that?
Yep.
Okay. So probably your next question was, where did you go to your AIT?
That's the next question.
When your leadership orientation scheduled for OCS, there's only 2 MOSs for OCS. One's artillery and one's infantry. Well, I turned down OCS, so I'm scheduled for infantry and went straight to Louisiana, Fort Polk.
AIT.
AIT.
Fort Polk. What a wonderful place to
Yes.
take basic training. So tell me a little bit about your AIT.
You know, I think that if I remember right, it was advanced infantry training, and then they added 2 weeks of guerrilla training on
And
top of it, and then there were a Viet Cong
a little school.
School.
Yep.
at camp there. I don't remember the name of it.
Tigerland.
Tigerland. Yes, sir. They added 2 weeks.
And that was about as realistic a training as what they were giving. I mean, that was about as...
We actually did combat in that.
Yeah.
They sent us on assault missions, and we actually went hand to hand with other companies. For real.
Oh, yeah. So after you got done with Tiger School, by the way, were you single or married?
I was single.
You were a single guy, okay.
Yes, and I did have a girlfriend in Wichita, and
But you just had to say goodbye to her.
said goodbye.
And you said, make sure you write me a lot of letters.
And she did write a lot of
And
letters.
send me some chocolate chip cookies.
You know, I think she probably did send chocolate chip cookies.
Yeah, I think that was one of our favorites, actually.
Yeah, they were little, you know, the moisture did keep them from getting crumbly.
Yeah. And do you remember what, I think you might have mentioned it, what date did you actually get in Vietnam?
I do. It was the 12th of April, 1966.
Okay.
And actually, when I got my orders to go to Vietnam, I was supposed to go to the 1st Infantry Division.
Are we talking about the Big Red One?
Big Red One. And they told me to sew my patches on. So I had my patches on when I went over. Got to Thompson Nut Air Base. Is where I flew into, and got in at night and saw these funny colored tracers coming in.
Yeah, they were green, not red.
They were green, yes. And come in there, and it was kind of, I thought maybe there were fireworks going off, but they were tracers. But anyway, we come in there, and went down to where the processing was, and they changed my orders to the 25th, 2nd and 27th.
You know why?
Because the 25th Division got there in January, and they were building the 25th Infantry Division base. I didn't at the time.
At Cu Chi.
At Cu Chi. And they had gone out in the Wolfhounds, and they'd suffered some severe casualties. And I was there, the first replacements in the Wolfhounds on the 12th of April.
Now, when did this revelation come to you? Did you know that before you got to Cu Chi, that they'd been devastated, or
no? Well, you know, I got kind of. Somebody said something. You're going to a unit that suffered some casualties, and that's why your order's been changed. So I got there, and it wasn't a real good reception, I have to tell you. These guys came from Schofield Barracks. They had been there together for years.
I'm assuming these were all professional soldiers.
These were.
That's what I mean. They were regular Army. They were not draftees.
You're correct.
Yep.
And they'd been together for, you know, most of them for probably a couple of years, at least a year.
Sure.
And they lost their friends.
A whole bunch of buddies.
Yeah, I mean, they were friends. And we were there to take these friends' place that had fallen. And we weren't accepted.
So how did you hang in there? I mean, where did you? Everybody has a spot to be in. Where did you guys fit in?
Well, we were just there, and we had to prove ourselves, John.
And
we hit the ground running.
And this was when they were building Cu Chi?
We were building the camp.
What did that look like? And I mean, it's flat ground. It's flat ground.
There were trees and brush down on the line. They'd cleared all out there in front of the concertina wire, but right behind the bunker line. Do you remember the bunker line?
Oh, I sat on that bunker line more than once.
Well, behind the bunker line was all trees.
Oh my goodness!
There were tunnels.
Oh, I know.
Behind the bunker line,
you bet.
They were coming in and stealing stuff from the hooches. It was, and You know, I hear guys from 68, 69 still saying that. I guess,
Well, they came in one night and blew up how many Chinooks? I think 9 of them
yeah,
in one night, and raised hell all over the place. They were shooting up all the our company area got shot up, and the supply room they lobbed a grenade on that, and yeah, it was fun.
but yeah, I actually have a couple of pictures down at the bunker line, looking from the bunkers back at the trees, and it looks like it's jungle.
I'll be darned.
And
And I'm assuming the first thing they did was they got some dozers and tried to make a circle of some kind, and then they put the concertina wire up. Was that, and then the bunkers?
Right.
So I'm assuming there was an
Yeah.
order of what they did.
yeah, they were there, 3 months before I got there. So
And they were probably trying to put in a strip of some kind for the helicopters, and
yeah, the heliport that was all there. I mean,
Okay.
the inside the concertina, the all the hooches and everything
yeah.
were there. We didn't have any EM clubs or PXs. I think it was July,
Okay.
last of July, before the PX was ever open. When we got back to camp, the PX
Was your platoon then still going out on day patrols or night
Well,
ambushes?
we,
or
once when we went out to the field, we were, or the boonies, the bush, or whatever we
Yeah.
called it. We were out 2 and 3 weeks at a time, just in the field.
like Hobo Woods, Iron Triangle?
Yeah,
some-
we were just out,
Yep.
and then they'd pick us up and they'd take us here, and
Oh,
then
yeah.
they'd pick us up and they'd take us here.
Throw out some sea rations once in a while. Bring in a little mail once in a
yeah,
while.
that's what we had.
Mhm.
We never. I remember one time when they brought a hot meal to us. Just that's the only one I remember.
Do you remember the first contact that was the unit that you were with was made, and where it was at?
Probably within a week from when I got there. I mean, like I say, I hit the ground running. I was assigned a M79 grenade launcher and a 45 pistol.
So somebody
first night I was there.
took your nice M16 away from you as soon as you got there.
I never was issued one.
Oh, okay. A lot of us actually got M16s, and Joe Wascom, when I walked into Crockett Fire Support Base, he said, "Hey, buddy, come over here." He says, "I can see that you're a guy that would really like to be prepared to get into action." Now, what am I going to say? I didn't know my up from down, right? And he goes, "You see this M79, this duper? And let me show you all the rounds that come with it. And all this," and he says, "and the final icing on the cake is you get this 45. And he goes, "Let me see that M16." And he took that away, and that was it. I was an M79 guy.
Well, that's what I was. But when I got there, they only had one round.
HE.
Yeah, that was it. They come out with a shotgun round.
Yep.
That must have been August of '66.
Did you have smoke?
Nope.
Did you have parachute flares? Oh man.
No.
They got better later on.
Well, yeah, that's what I say, John. I think it was probably July, maybe into August, before we got the shotgun round.
And you can't shoot in the jungle with HE.
Well, you can. I mean, if
It's got to
If
go
you-
it's got to go so far before it arms
I think
itself.
what 35 feet.
Yeah.
I
There are
think.
so many rotations, which
Yeah,
equals
35 feet, something like that.
that.
But yeah, I mean, not in triple canopy you can't shoot. But
Oh, yeah.
we were in rice paddies. a lot.
Oh, yeah. You can do some shooting out there.
And I was pretty good with it after fashion, because
Sure.
wherever we went, I got practice.
Mm-hmm.
Within 400 yards, I could pretty well put it where I wanted to. 45, that just made noise.
Mine too.
I couldn't
As a matter
hit the
of
side
fact,
of a barn
when
if I was standing inside.
When I took that 45 out, if I went like that, it rattled like a beer can with a rock in it. I mean,
But-
it was so loose, so I thought, I better test fire this thing. Right? So, did they ever let you have a mad minute, they called it, where anybody that wanted to go out and shoot their weapon just to make sure everything, you know, they'd put some silhouettes up. Did you ever do that?
John, we never had mad minutes.
Okay.
It was just all mad.
Okay.
I mean, we were
they
out.
didn't let you just go and
We
practice.
never had a day that we didn't fire.
Mm-hmm. So
I mean,
anyway, at Crockett they let us go out to the dump, and so we went out there, and I took that 45, and I put all tracer bullets in it because I wanted to see where the rounds were headed. The first round I pulled off came out the end of the barrel and went like that.
I thought it was always me.
The second round that came out went like that. The third round that came out went like that. And I turned around to Wascom and I said, thanks a lot. I said, do you realize in order for this weapon to be effective, I'm going to have to stick it in some gook's mouth
Well,
before I pull the trigger?
you throw it at him.
Holy no, I swear, that was...
Yeah.
And those
Well,
were old World War II.
Yeah, I don't think that I could hit with one.
No.
I really don't.
So that pretty much, the blush was off the rose then.
The bad thing about it, and in '66, if you had one, it kind of puts you in a position of going in tunnels.
That's true.
If
Whether
you
they
had a
worked
45,
whether
don't
they
matter
worked
what
right or not.
don't matter how big you were,
Yep.
you got to look in the tunnels if you had a 45.
Yep.
You couldn't give it to somebody that was smaller and say, "Here, you take it."
Had they started the Kit Carson program when you were there?
Yes,
Did you guys have one?
yes, sir.
What do you remember about him?
I remember everything but his name, and he's a really good guy.
Yep. We had a couple of different experiences. We had a couple that were still NVA sympathizers, and this is what would happen. If we'd be going out and we watched them and they'd start gravitating towards the rear, and then pretty soon you look back and they've disappeared because
Dead run.
But when we'd be close to hedgerows or whatever, and then by the time we cleared the hedgerow, he was in the back of the line again. We didn't take us long to get rid of him, because you know what he was doing. They were in the hedgerow and he was going and telling
Were
them.
your Viet Cong or were they NVAs?
NVA.
Okay, ours was, like I say, we didn't have much contact with NVA.
That's
in
right. Yeah,
66.
that's right. It would have been. Yeah.
Yeah, ours was all Viet Cong, turned Viet Cong. You know?
And you know
and
what?
they knew the woods like the back of their
Everything.
hand.
And you know they'd been fighting for 100 years.
Well,
There was never an end for them.
the Viet Cong started from the Viet Minh,
Mm-hmm.
and the Viet Minh started in Boloy Woods. That was their base camp.
Mm-hmm. Did you ever get to the sugar mill?
Oh yes, we guarded the Green Berets. That was their home, the sugar mill. But we took turns guarding
Yes.
the Green Berets, the sugar mill.
Mm-hmm. And remember how spooky it was? Lots of vegetation. I mean, it was almost like there were ghosts. I
There
swear.
were ghosts.
Yeah, it was just. I swear, it was an eerie, scary
John,
place.
There is no place as dark and black as Vietnam at night.
Oh yes.
I mean, there's no artificial lights. There's nothing to light up Vietnam.
Yep.
It's black. And
Did you ever go on a night ambush and have to hold the guy's web in front of you? Because
it's like a cave.
you couldn't. Yeah. Did you ever have that?
Oh yeah, we
I
tied
mean-
strings to each other.
And if you let go and walked 2 steps in the wrong direction, you were lost.
It was black. It's blackest place
you
you've ever
couldn't.
been
You
in.
couldn't see your hand in front of your face.
And you know, John, Sherry and I went back to Vietnam
Oh, I didn't know that.
in 2012. and we went out in the van. Maybe we're straying off subject here, but
No, that's fine.
well, we rented a van with we went with my brother and his wife are Vietnamese, and she has family over there. And we rented a 10 or 15 passenger van. I don't remember what it is, and we went to Cu Chi and Black Virgin Mountain.
There was a amusement park at the top of that.
There is. There's a trolley car.
Can you believe it?
We went up.
Were you shocked?
It was beautiful.
I've got pictures of it.
Yeah, the it's a ski lift type thing.
Yeah.
It's beautiful. I could see why our rounds and bombs never hurt that mountain.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
The rocks are as big as this home here.
Were you able to get in out of the way places like the sugar mill or go into some of the Hobo Wood area or Iron Tar? Was it possible to? Were there even roads that went in there?
You mean now?
No, when you were there.
Oh, we that was our area of operation.
Exactly.
I mean, we the 2nd Brigade, which is the 1st and 2nd battalions of the Wolfhounds.
Yep.
The 1st and 5th Mech, the 1st and 8th Artillery.
Yep.
I think that pretty well
Mm-hmm.
was it, wasn't it?
Yeah.
We pulled an operation. I think it started May the 5th, 1966. We invaded Bolo Woods, base camp
Mm-hmm.
of the Viet Cong. Never been invaded before. And I'm plumb serious, John. Operation Wahiawa, I think it was, and I may not have pronounced that right. Moved the 1st and 8th Artillery out there. Made a landing zone for helicopters, and like I say, it started about the 5th of May. And the first battalion of the Wolfhounds was out to the left, and the area covered Hobo Woods, Boloi Woods, Philhole
Oh yeah. Yeah.
plantation, rubber plantation.
Yep.
Covered that whole area. It was an invasion into the Viet Cong, which started out as Viet Minh territory. And we'd been out there about 3 weeks. We took fire every day. Everybody did.
What kind of fire was it? More like
Sniper fire.
okay, so
and running into ambushes
spider
and-
holes, tunnels.
Yeah, tunnels.
Yeah.
The villages, we did search and destroy on villages. And just speaking from my company, B Company, 2nd 27, we'd been out about 3 weeks in continuous fighting, going where we, and jumping on helicopters.
Was
going,
everybody mosquito bitten at that point? I just bring this up because I want to know if it was the same for you as it was for us.
You got at that time, and I'd been in country less than a month, and maybe you had the same deal as I did, but you had a cheap watch.
Oh,
And the mosquito repellent
I know where you're
you
going.
put on took about 1 day to eat the crystal right off the watch.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
That stuff was so strong that when you rubbed it on, the crystal of your watch in one day was gone. So somebody brought a catalog around, and maybe you got one, but everybody ordered deep sea diving watches.
Oh yeah, a lot of us had, yeah.
And at that time they cost about $100
Yeah.
through a catalog, and you paid payment because nobody had that much money.
Yeah.
But I had mine for years and years after Vietnam because they were really good watches, but they were depth tested to 600 feet, but they had glass crystal
Yeah,
in it.
yeah.
That mosquito repellent wouldn't eat that glass crystal.
In that operation, what was the final result? I mean, what did you guys accomplish
I was
there?
getting to that because, as you know, and you pulled operations bolo at the same place probably, but after about 3 weeks, 2 weeks, not quite 3 weeks, we, B Company, come back into base camp, and we got showers, and we got a hot meal, and then they came out and they said, everybody pack up, we got to go back out. C Company, your company that you joined later on, a couple years later, C Company, 2nd 27, run into ambush, they're pinned down. We got to go in to get them. So we'd been back in base camp about 2.5 hours. Enough time for a shower, hot meal. We climbed back on the helicopters at Coochie. By the time we get back out to Bolo Woods, or the edge of Bolo Woods, is where they had this artillery and everything set up in the helipad. It's right at dark, 18th of May. I'll never forget the day. We land and we start in towards Bolo Woods, elephant grass, at night. And we go as far as we can, and finally we just get towards the edge of the woods, and we have to stop for the night. Mm-hmm. And we've run into VC in the elephant grass at dusk, and we had a little battle. And we didn't take on any injuries. We got a couple VC. So the next morning we get up at daybreak and start into the woods to the forest. And as you, maybe it was that way when you got there, but there were villages at the edge of the forest.
Yes.
And we come through this village to go into where C Company's at, and we take on small arms fire. So after about an hour, we take the village, and we find this large catch of rice. So we have to secure the village,
Right.
And so we get word while we're securing the village that C Company is no longer pinned down. So C Company is going to come back and secure the village, and we're going to go up towards where C Company got pinned down. Take over where they left off. So we go towards C Company, and C Company's coming back, and we kind of, walk through each other.
Sure.
And this is, it was about 10 o'clock in the morning when we secured the village, and we went through C Company probably about 2 o'clock in the afternoon.
Did they look beleaguered?
They looked glad to see us, and as they were coming back, they had a long night. But they didn't take any casualties.
Hmm.
And about 4 o'clock in the afternoon, we walked into a bunker line. Right into 51 caliber
Mm.
bunker line. From one end of us to the other. And our company was the first and second platoon always led, and the third platoon wiped up behind us. And just as we got into the triple canopy is when we walked into the bunker line. Couldn't see 15 foot in front of us. Couldn't see the bunkers.
Mm-hmm.
But,
Too much wooded area, is that what you mean?
well, it's triple canopy, Tim.
What is that?
Triple
Bamboo
canopy,
and-
the trees, the tallest trees are 150 foot tall.
Mm.
And then
There-
there's another level of,
And then there's another level of trees that are about 50, 75 foot tall. And then below that is brush that you cannot push your way through.
Mm.
And this is where we'd walk, and regular forest is what you walk through for long ways. It kind of and the ant mounds are in this regular forest. And you remember the ant
oh
mounds.
God.
These things are maybe 6 foot across, and some of them are 6 foot tall. When they fired upon us, we had guys fall. I blocked a lot of it out that I didn't remember for years.
Oh yes.
I dreamed it in my dreams.
Yep.
And I thought that I didn't remember it being real, John. And that's kind of hard to explain to somebody that hasn't been there.
Yep.
For years and years, I dreamed about a guy getting his jaw blown off. And I didn't find out until a couple of years ago that the guy was standing right in front of me when those 51 calibers
Yep.
started firing. The guy was standing from me to you. And I blocked it out, John.
Did he live?
Yeah. They rebuilt his jaw, and I found out this from a guy that was in the 3rd platoon. A guy in the 3rd platoon told me a lot, but I'll get to that later. That he was behind us, and they did the cleanup afterward. But anyway, I blocked a lot of it out. I built this wall in my head,
Yep.
and in my nightmares, I thought it was just that.
Well, you
But it was
question.
flashbacks.
You question it, everything. In other words,
Yeah.
you go, is it possible? Because I don't remember it, but I'm dreaming it.
Yeah.
And so, is this like for real, or is this
Yeah,
just
did I see it on TV?
A goofy, yeah.
You know, but anyway, so we're pinned down, and John, these big ass bullets are cutting little trees down.
Down. Oh yeah.
And I remember the wood splinters hitting me, and I think I'm getting hit with metal, but it's these wood,
Mm-hmm.
piece of wood that's hitting me, and when I was there, these M16s, they jammed all the time. If they weren't perfectly clean,
Mm-hmm.
they jammed. Well, you can't keep them clean.
That was the first generation where they had open fire suppressors. They were prongs.
Yes.
And they'd gather in, I mean, if you got them in anything, it would it'd get caught, hung up, and guys had trouble when they'd pull a round out, the darn end of the barrel
And
would
there
blow up.
wasn't a place to carry a cleaning rod in them. So somebody had to carry a cleaning rod in there. So when they jammed, you're in a firefight. So the first thing you hear when these bunkers are firing on us, and it's continuous fire, is somebody have a cleaning rod
Right off the bat.
right off the bat. So guys are passing a cleaning rod to unjam. That's the only way you can do. You got to kick this empty cartridge out of this. We called them, they're Mattel, they're swell. That's what we call these M16s. All I can do is shoot this 45 till it's empty, you know, and I'm doing as good as the guys with the M16s are, but, you know, I grabbed one from a guy that couldn't use his anymore, but anyway, they start calling artillery in, and Ford Observer, lieutenant.
You're awful close to the target.
We're within 20 feet.
You're too close to the target.
So the Ford Observer is standing right behind my platoon leader, or right beside him. They're standing. They're standing behind a tree, you know, this big around. And they called for HE round right off the bat, you know, and started walking them in. I'd hear him say drop 5-0.
So at least they got over your head.
They did. They were coming in from behind.
Yeah.
Well, the artillery's right, you know, behind us. What, like 300 yards or something? I don't know how far they were exactly, but I mean, you could hear it. And, you know, you'd hear them fire, and then you'd hear that round whistling over your head. And so they kept dropping, and pretty soon the rounds are like hitting out there 50, 60 meters. And this lieutenant says, drop 5-0, and we're screaming at him. And there's this long pause. And pretty soon he says, fire for effect. And he dropped rounds right on us. On him. And it just got still, John. I mean, he dropped them on the bunkers too, but I don't know how many rounds it was, but I remember rolling in this hot fire going through my leg. And then I remember guys screaming, you know, and stuff like that. And
Tell Tim what it sounds like when your ears are affected by a round going off that close.
It's just, you're dumb. You're just dumb.
And it's
I don't remember the sound.
But it's all like in a tunnel. Somebody's way, you know.
I remember the concussion, is what I remember. I don't remember the sound. I just remember the concussion, and wiped the whole platoon out. They either KIA or WIA, every one of us.
Mm-hmm.
First and second platoon.
Did the 51s quit?
Yeah, everything.
It just got quiet.
Everything. And I never knew for years how I got wounded through the calf of my leg. This way. Laying on the ground flat. And guys with their, laying on the ground flat and their legs blown off and their arm blown off by an artillery round.
Shrapnel has no common sense.
Well, John, the same year I went to your reunion, I went to the regimental reunion, and I met up with a couple guys that were in my company, and these guys were in the 3rd platoon, which was behind us.
Oh yeah.
And man named Clark Ritchie, and I remembered him well from Vietnam. And he told me, John, that when those rounds hit, the concussion picked us up like rag dolls. And we were up in the air. And he
That's
said,
how guys were getting their legs
and he said he could see the shrapnel hitting us while we were in the air.
That's how it happened.
Yes, sir. And then it made sense, that who in the hell would think that artillery would pick you up off the ground and then the shrapnel hit you while you're in the air? They always told us the shrapnel hits and then goes forward, but who in the hell would think that it'd pick you up off the ground and then hit you while you're up in the air?
Mm.
And I remember tumbling, but I didn't know that I was 15, 20
Did
foot
you
in the
say
air.
was it a captain or a lieutenant?
He was a lieutenant. He was a football player.
Was he wounded or killed?
He was in pieces.
So a round hit right.
Yeah, he took almost a direct hit. 35 of us, WIA, 8 killed.
And that date was?
May the 19th, 1966. The odd part about it is I got wounded twice that same day. And that's kind of the rest of the story, because A Company, 2nd 27th, took a lot of casualties that same day. When they were bringing the medevac choppers in to their heliport, they took a round, an RPG round, I guess, or something. Anyway, it was a direct hit, and dropped a helicopter on their heliport. So they had to clear a spot right there at the edge of the triple canopy to take us out. So they had rigged up helicopters to take a gurney on the sides, on the skids. Well, I got on the skid.
On a stretcher?
Yeah. Whatever kind of a gurney it was
Yeah.
they had fixed up,
Yeah,
it was
yeah.
a fixed skid on the skid. And as we were lifting off, they dropped a mortar round underneath the helicopter. And it got me in the rear end. And when you're on the skid, you're strapped in.
Oh, you're not going anywhere.
Not going to rub a hurt either. So when I got to the hospital, I had a bandaged leg, and then I had another wound where the medic hadn't got to it yet.
Did they give you 2 Purple Hearts for that day?
John, they give me 2 certificates, but they didn't give me 2 awards.
What? I've never heard of a certificate.
The actual Purple Heart certificate?
Yes.
You didn't get a certificate?
I did.
Okay.
But you didn't get the medal.
Oh yeah, I got 2 medals, 2 certificates, 2 medals for that day.
And does it show on your DD-214?
It shows, well, I got a second one later on too.
Okay.
But it just shows I got wounds on my DD-214 on
Okay.
that day. But yeah, I got 2 Purple Hearts.
Okay, yeah. Well, that's good.
So,
How long did it take you to heal up enough to get back into the gunfight?
I was, they sent me to Benoit Hospital. I think I was there 2 weeks. And they sent me back to B Company.
Did you tell them that you wanted to go home?
Oh, no, I didn't. I kind of enjoyed that clean living for a little bit, even though I was in the hospital. That clean sheets felt pretty good. But anyway, I didn't even think about going home, to tell you the truth.
Yeah.
But
Well, you knew if they weren't going to send you home, you weren't going home anyway.
no. But they sent me back on light duty. Well, we had a first shirt named John Chan, and he was a badass. He'd been to Vietnam before, part of that Chinese I don't remember what they called that outfit, but they lived among the Vietnamese.
Oh, yeah.
I don't remember what
And the mountain yards and
Yeah,
all that, yeah.
Anyway, he was martial arts and like 7 different martial arts, and he was. Anyway, John was. He didn't believe in light duty. So there was another guy that wounded on that day, and he come back light duty. Well, he put us to work in the bunkers, on the bunker line. And they had cots in the back, 2, an upper and lower cot, and then they had a place for machine gun in the central window, and then M16
Yeah.
positions on the sides. Well,
We were still building bunkers like that, by the way, in 68 and 69. So
Yeah.
that must have been Army SOP or
yeah,
something.
anyway, and they had a diagram, of their range of fire out of, and anyway, he had decided that they needed sloped floors with a grenade tube in the bottom. So this other guy, his name escapes me right now, but anyway, he put us to work on light duty, tearing apart pallets and digging these floors out in the bunker and building sloped floors and putting I don't remember what come in those tubes.
Wasn't it an artillery?
The artillery round tube.
Yeah.
And putting these tubes down underneath the bench, where the machine guns sit. So when if somebody threw a grenade in, it'd roll down. Well, I thought it was kind of silly because the Viet Cong at that time had those Chinese grenades with a long handle on them. Well, they wouldn't roll on the floor anyway.
No.
If they threw them in, they'd just lay on the floor no matter what. But anyway, that was our job of sloping these floors so a grenade would roll down into this artillery round tube. And I think we finished up about 2 of them.
Mm-hmm.
And the guys come in from the boonies from an operation, and I went in and I told First Sergeant that I needed to go back to the field. And my leg was still bandaged up. So I think they come in and they all got showered and got a hot meal, and I think the next day went back out and I went with them.
You were still hurting though.
Well, the medic had changed my bandages every day
Yep.
out in the field, and we were waiting rice paddies.
Mm. You're lucky you didn't get the old Mongolian dock rot. Think about it. Think about
Yeah.
all the crud that was in those
Oh,
canals
yeah,
and those patties.
yeah.
Did you ever get the leach treatment?
Well, I don't know if it's treatment or not, but I got plenty of leech. And that insect repellent we were talking about a little bit ago, they would curl up, make a noise when you squirted them with it.
That's what I used.
Yeah.
That's
yeah.
what I used.
Yeah, they would almost rattle when you put it on them.
So after you went back with the company, then how long had you been in Vietnam at that point?
Well, like I say, I went over April 12th. I got wounded on the 19th of May. And 2 weeks in the hospital. So, I mean, it puts just a little after 1st June. So 2 months,
Mm-hmm.
I had already had my stint in the hospital.
So did you resume patrols, ambushes, all that?
Right, yeah, right back.
How did that work out?
It just there, John.
You
I
just
mean,
did it. So
just-
you were still in contact.
Oh yeah, I mean, yeah, we every day. I mean, every day.
Did you ever have anything
sniper
as bad
fire.
as? Did you ever have anything as bad as the 51s? Where the
You know, I
artillery, where
think that was probably the worst day
Mhm.
we ever had.
Did you ever have a moment that you thought, "This is it"?
No,
Even when you got hit with the artillery?
you know, it's kind of odd, John, that whenever we got into firefights, it was just like being in a movie or something.
Oh, yeah, I know.
You know what I'm talking
I do.
about? It was like
It was surreal.
well, you know, you're trained to react, and that's what we did.
Mm-hmm.
We reacted like we were. That's what they trained us. They took us into basic and AIT, and they made us all where we'd react the same. And that's what we did.
Mm-hmm.
If you didn't do that, you couldn't be trusted. And you know, there was a method to their madness,
Oh, yeah.
John. You know, the bad thing was they never untrained us.
Yeah, if there would be such a
If there's such a thing,
if there's
I mean,
such a thing, yeah.
how do you take that out of a guy?
What was the top rank that you made in Vietnam?
Spec 4.
Okay. And then as your tour went on, did you, were you a squad leader then when you were Spec 4?
No, you know that it's I actually made Spec 4 after I got wounded in October and come back to the States.
What was October? Tell me about that.
We were out in the boonies, and that was, you know, it was actually the beginning of Attleboro.
Oh, yes. Yep.
I mean, that was actually just the beginning. It was October 2nd, I believe. And they were just getting geared up for Attleboro is what we were doing. We were out in the field, and we'd been out there probably a couple of weeks.
Mm-hmm.
And John, it was a beautiful morning. I remember it just as if it was last week. We got up, had our sea rations that morning, and it was almost a cool morning. And it's still, and the birds were singing. And we got all gathered up, got our packs on, you know, and probably had a cigarette or two. And we went across this open field, and we were spread out, you know, and this guy about 20 foot ahead of me, stepped on a damn mine.
Mm.
And I'll never forget that. It was just a cloud of smoke come up. And a piece hit me right below the knee there. And I done a backflip. That hurt so bad. It felt like somebody hit me with a sledgehammer.
Mm.
And you think, it'd knock your leg out from underneath.
Yeah, sure.
And I did the opposite. I did a complete backflip. And that medic, he was a black guy. He came over and run over to me. He said, "Ron, you're going home." I said, "No, I'm not going home." He said, "You're going home."
What did he say about the guy that stepped on the mine?
He was still standing. He had a cut on his face, and it hit his ankle, but it didn't knock him down.
Hmm.
And his name was Snodgrass. I've looked for him
Mm-hmm.
ever since about 2010. I tried to find him. There were a lot of Snodgrasses in this country, but I never have found him.
So you did
But-
go? Did they send you to the hospital, like Japan or someplace, or?
Did I went to I went into Kuchi to the hospital. Then I don't remember what they called, what number was on that hospital. Anyway, the next day they sent me to Camp Zama.
14th evac.
It was 14th? Okay. Anyway, they put me on a plane and sent me to Camp Zama, Japan. And they took my cast off and operated on me again up there. Pretty quick. And then put the cast back on. Like they was expecting that bone to grow back, I guess. And then they took the cast off again, first part of December, and I guess that bone hadn't grown back yet. I was missing a chunk out of my bone, about an inch and a half by an inch by an inch and a half deep.
Unbelievable.
And so they decided that bone wasn't going to grow back, and they sent me back to the States just before Christmas of '66. So
So
Yeah.
how did the leg ever turn out?
they did bone graft.
Oh, that I was going to ask you if that's
Yeah,
what
they did a bone graft off my hip.
So
Sent me to Fort Riley.
that was my next question.
Yeah, sent me to Fort Riley. The fact is, they asked me where I wanted to be sent.
And what did you do when you got back to Riley?
Well, actually, it took them. I think it was March before they ever did the bone graft on me.
So you were hanging, basically.
Oh yeah, I spent the rest of my Army life in Fort Riley
Yeah.
till my discharge in October '67.
So when did you get married?
October. No, let's see. No, I got married in February of '67.
Was this a girlfriend?
Yeah,
The girlfriend that you mentioned earlier?
yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
So
And-
so
and-
she didn't Jody you.
No. She, that's my first wife, and we're still good friends. I
Sure.
mean, we're still friends. She's the mother of my two daughters.
Oh,
and,
that's wonderful.
yeah, we're still friends. But yeah, we got married.
And your second marriage?
Well, we don't talk about that.
Yeah, I don't talk about my second one either.
No, in fact, I don't even remember. That's one of those things I blocked off.
Why do we have so much in common?
Well, do you suppose that combat had anything to do with it?
Man, oh man. I mean, it's just,
Uh,
you know what? It's just like we lived parallel lives.
Yeah, it's just,
So then the
yeah,
third one was
another one I'm gonna talk about.
Okay. Any kids from either one of those?
No.
Oh, okay.
No,
And then number 4.
it's Sherry.
Okay. And then tell me about that one.
This is the greatest thing that ever happened to
How
me.
many years ago?
20, I'm thinking now, 23.
And
Just celebrated
and
23.
Laura was my third 26 years ago.
Yeah,
So,
congratulations.
And I have told anybody that will listen to me that she saved me.
Yeah, yeah, I was, I spent a few years on the bottle, John.
Mm-hmm.
And I took myself off whiskey. I knew I had to.
Yeah. And did you and Sherry have any kids?
No,
Okay.
Sherry's got a daughter.
Okay.
It's my daughter.
I was just gonna say
Yeah.
you got a daughter out of the deal.
Yeah, I got a daughter out of the deal
What
too.
kind of a career did you do then when?
Well, when I got out of service, I was still kind of gimpy-legged, you know, and I had uncles that were in the operating engineers, heavy equipment operators union, and I went down to the union hall in Wichita and told them I wanted to be in the operators union. And at that time, they didn't just let you into the union.
Oh, I know.
I mean, it was a brotherhood, and
Yes.
the business.
Did having relatives help at all?
Well, it did.
Yeah.
It did. The business agent down there sent me out to Dodge City, Kansas, to oil on a crane. And that's basically greasing the crane and keeping everything
Oh,
clean
yeah.
for that operator.
Maintaining,
that
yep,
operator
yep.
can eat off the controls if he wants to.
Yes.
And the operator I went out to oil for actually wore white gloves. and that's the honest to God truth. He wore white cotton gloves. So, and he was a finicky old son of a gun. And I think that business agent knew that.
Yep.
But anyway, I went out to Dodge City. They were doing a helium plant out there, building a helium plant. And I oiled, and then I went on to operating heavy equipment.
Did you go through the
joined the
lines,
union.
scrapers, and the whole?
I run dirt
Dozers
equipment and dozers, high loaders.
Patrols. Scrape,
I did
blades.
a little bit of the blades
Yeah.
and stuff, and then I went into the building cranes and stuff like
Mhm.
that.
Cool.
And then about 19, 20 years of that, my leg got to bother me. I couldn't trust it on they always said there's the difference between a good crane operator and a bad crane operator is just about that much on the brake pedal.
Oh my.
So I started looking for a different line of work then. I went to a VSO, Veteran Service
Officer.
officer. And I don't know why I went to him, just to talk, I guess. And that was about 1983. I guess I was looking into the program the VA had for further education or something.
Oh yeah.
And looking in to see what I could do if I could get into another line of work because I was having problems
Sure.
with my leg. And he said, well, why don't you make an application with the state of Kansas to be a veterans employment rep? And I said, well, I don't have any experience with that. He said, well, here's an application, put it in. I put it in, and it wasn't a week. They called me to come for an interview, and dang if they didn't hire me. So I was a veteran employment rep, state of Kansas, for about 8 years,
Okay.
and then I started applying for other jobs within the state, and when I retired in 2007, I was actually a director of facilities management, worked directly for the Secretary of Labor,
Okay.
state of Kansas. That's kind of,
You had some interesting
yeah. I
experiences.
went through a lot to get to that position,
Yeah.
and I was just about as high as I can get
Before,
without any education.
before we wind this up, I've got a couple of questions that I just want you to answer for me. What does the American flag mean to you?
Well, that's a symbol of just about everything that you and I give part of our lives for.
Do you have any reaction when you see what's going on with?
Well, the maybe I have a different reaction than a lot of hardcore veterans have, in that I probably believe that their being able to protest that way is something I fought for.
Mm-hmm.
But yet it pisses me off that they're doing it.
Sure. Did you ever join any VFW, American Legion, any of that stuff?
Oh, there's another story. When I got out of the service in 1967, I went to the American Legion and the VFW both to join.
I know where you're going with this.
You know where I'm
I
going?
know exactly where you're going.
They turned me down
I experienced the same thing because they were a bunch
because
of old.
I wasn't a veteran of a foreign war.
Oh, that was exactly it. Weren't welcome.
And I mean, they actually wouldn't let me in.
Me too.
And it wasn't too long after that they came to me to join, because Vietnam War had been declared a war rather than a police action,
Yeah.
like they were calling it.
Yep.
And I told them, when your top dog, wherever he's at, sends him that letter of apology, I'll join. Well, John, I go to the mailbox every day looking for, looking for that letter.
Yep.
And, you know, I'll still join when I get that letter.
Sure. One last thing I want to know.
But I do belong to DAV.
Yeah.
I belong to the Military Order of the Purple Heart.
Yep.
Life member.
Yep. I did that too. I just did the life. That way I'm not bothered with.
Yeah. All I'm bothered with is to give you a donation to help the poor veterans. You know.
One last question. How do you define a hero?
A hero. A hero is somebody who gets caught in a circumstance and does the right thing. And I think everybody that is in a bad situation, does the right thing, is eligible to be a hero.
Do you have any heroes?
Oh, I'm sure I do.
Was your dad a hero to you?
No, my dad wasn't a hero. My dad was a dad.
Mm-hmm.
My dad was a pacifist. My dad, and he didn't believe in war. I believe he believed the country's worth fighting for, but he didn't really believe in what we call wars now, and I'm not sure that I really do.
Yeah. Do you have anybody that you served with that you considered a hero?
In my definition of a hero, no. But
Okay.
I have a lot that I'd sure go back to war with.
Oh yeah, yeah. I know what you mean.
You know, in 1966, they didn't hand medals out.
Oh, I know. You know what? They didn't hand many out in '68 either.
They really, not in the Wolfhounds, they didn't.
No, they didn't in
I
'68.
mean, I see guys from other units that have got bronze stars and silver stars and
Well, I'm not gonna tell you what happened towards the end of 1968. Then I'm not gonna tell you because it would just piss you off.
well, no, it won't. It just
do you know what?
I know what it took to get a bronze star when I was there, and I had a captain that got a bronze star and a silver star that didn't do a damn thing.
Yep.
And,
Well-
and he got a silver star that day we got blown up,
Yep.
and he was to the rear. And he got a silver star because first and second platoon overrun the bunker line. And that's a fact.
Yep.
That's what's on his
Yep.
silver
Oh, yeah.
star. And I've told you the story of what happened. So, you know, I may be wrong, but there's wolfhounds and then there's officer wolfhounds.
Oh, no question about it.
You know, and I've seen some good officers wolfhounds, but there's a difference.
Yep. Well, buddy, I want to thank you so much for allowing us to come into your home.
Well, I'm glad
And-
you came.
and
Anytime you
it's-
guys want to stop at my place.
It's so important that you told us your story. Really. I mean,
Well,
there's
don't-
something that I don't do anymore. I never tell a veteran thank you for your service. You know what I always tell them? Never forget.
Well-
Never forget. And I want people to know what our service was all about. And you have a tremendous story. You've told us a tremendous story here.
Yeah. You know, John, people that were in Vietnam, we weren't in the same Vietnam. I mean, really, you were in the same place, and I was in the same place as you were, and my company and the first battalion of the Wolfhounds were in different Vietnams, maybe.
And that was the case with us too.
Yeah,
We were never by the first.
Yeah,
I mean,
it was you know, and the people from the First Infantry Division, they were in different Vietnam.
Yep, that's true.
The first Cav, and
That's true.
everybody that was in Vietnam was in a different Vietnam.
Yep.
And that's why what you're doing is important, because people were in different Vietnam.
That's true.
If
That's
they were
very
a
true.
truck driver, they weren't seeing the same Vietnam
Absolutely.
as
true.
artillery.
Yep.
Infantry saw a different Vietnam as a helicopter pilot did.
Yep. Well, my friend, thank you.
So thank you.
I'm so happy that
Love
we were.
you, brother.
I love you too. I was so happy we were able to do this.
Well, me too.